I can remember when I used to draw on paper bags, the brown paper bags that you get from the grocery store with a big, thick kindergarten type number 2 pencil. So you'd work in it and you work all the blacks out and you get the black all over your arm and whatnot. But I always drew. I can't remember a time when I didn't. The thing that probably influenced me wanting to do this in the first place was probably the 1966 Batman TV show. And the funny thing, it was we had a black and white TV. So like I remember watching that show like in after school, and the car and the Batman suit, everything just looked so cool and like black and shiny and just really freaky. And then one day I went to a friend's house down the street and he had a color TV, and I watched it for the first time in color, and it just blew my brains out the back of my head. I had an opportunity to go to art school, and I literally turned it down. They had awarded me a scholarship for a summer program at Otis Parsons. And I turned it down because I had a job. Like I had a job lined up. I was ready to start working because I wanted a car and I wanted this and I wanted that. So like once I got out of school, it was the only thing. I just need to get mobile. And then at some point, I'd paid off the car, and I was like, wow, it's like, what am I going to do with all this money? Like I had extra money. Like I had what they called disposable income. So I went ahead and I went straight to the comic book shop, and I just started picking up new books. And all of a sudden, I was back into that lifestyle where I was reading comic books, picking them up and whatnot. And that was great. But then once I decided, yeah, I can make a go of this. I'd like to try doing this. I started working, and immediately the first thing I noticed was there used to be money around here. It's like, where did all the money go? And it made it real difficult because, going from, having the 9 to 5 and the 40-hour work week with the insurance, with the, dental plan and your, eye care especially, to go from that to basically working freelance and not basically even guaranteeing whether or not the income was going to come in or not. That was a big adjustment. I once had an opportunity to work with Gene Simmons of Kiss on a comic book for Bongo Comics, doing a Simpsons version of the band. I, I I've worked with them on another couple projects. So like being a big Kiss fan, that was like the one of the great things. I was like, oh my God, I get the, I would pay them to do this. It's like I want to draw this stuff. Because once upon a time, drawing comic books, that wasn't even real. It wasn't something that you could do. Yeah, the comic books were there. Yeah, comic books were available. I went to comic book shows, but there was no one around that basically could show you, hey, this is how we do this. So all of a sudden, I'm working in comic books, and then, like you say, you're just like walking down, the convention center, and there's this guy and that guy, and you're like, oh my God! It's like I remember these people like fondly, some of my biggest influences, and to have like someone like George Perez, who is another phenomenal artist from comic books that I remember reading when I was a kid, to basically go to a comic book show and having him be the one that sees me and goes, hey, Tone! And he sees me and I walk over, and instead of a handshake, he gives me a hug. In a million years, never would have imagined something like that. I try not to focus on the lows at all. I really don't. I mean, I've had a few, situations that just didn't get any better. And I've had some opportunities that were put in front of me that through one thing or another just kind of fizzled out and fell by the wayside. But, if I spent too much time lamenting how things didn't work out and not taking the opportunity to go, all right, well, you saw how that played out. How are you going to learn not to let something like that happen again? That's where I guess I focus more on. I'd rather just try to like keep moving forward. And so somebody explained it to me the other day. It's like being a shark. It's like you can't swim backwards. You just got to constantly move forward and devour. So that's what I'm going to try to do. I'm just going to keep trying to be a shark and keep moving forward. I'm a dinosaur. I do all my work on a piece of paper with a pen and a pencil. At one point, I remember, we were setting up the studio and I had my table all the way in one corner, and the guy came in with a computer and says, well, where do you want me to put the computer? And I literally pointed to the opposite side of the room. I said, way over there, because I didn't want anything to do with it. But now it's kind of like gotten to the point where I keep talking to the guys and I'm like, man, I gotta like really get on this. I gotta like pick up some Photoshop skills. But what I've always wanted to do is I've always wanted the original artwork to look like the artwork that ran in the book. If I were to work in digitally, some of that work might not be on the finished page, and the page the person is interested in doesn't exist. I really want to draw a whole comic book where actually all the letters are like drawn on the comic book page. It's like something to me that just makes me feel like that's a real comic book. Like when the book is done and shot and sent to the printer, that all of that stuff is right there on the original page. And that's the one thing that you can't always do if you're working digitally. I have friends that work digitally and their stuff looks great, but they have people who get a hold of them and they're interested in their pages, and every so often they'll get a message back. It's like, this doesn't look right. Well, the panels aren't on the page because I dropped them all in digitally. Oh, and there's no background in this one. There's no background in this one because we used the background from the other page and I just dropped it in digitally. So like, I don't know how they feel about it, the fans that want to buy the stuff, but I know I want it. I know when I want a comic book page, or if I'm looking at comic book or original art rather, I know I want like a page with everything on there, because that's the stuff that's going to get me all geeked out over it. We seem to be in the only industry where people, from time to time, we get asked to either work for less than we deserve or nothing at all, and people don't seem to mind. I don't expect anyone else to do work for free. I mean, if the guy comes over to do plumbing in my house, am I going to somehow try to figure a way of not paying him? I need him to do the work. I pay him. He tells me what it is. And if he gives me a break, God bless him. But, it's like, this is just how things work. I worked with John Carpenter and Deborah Hill and Kurt on the Escape from New York comic books. And from our very first meeting, I gave them what I saw was the Snake Plissken character. I gave it to them. I said, this is what I want him to look like. And they looked at it, and I think for a second they probably thought to themselves, like, this doesn't look like Kurt. Well, I wasn't trying to draw Kurt. I was just trying to draw the character, like to get the nuances of what the character was. Because if they just want to do something so it looks like Kurt, they could just, take photos and I can just trace the faces and everything and boom, just slap it on the side of the stuff. And maybe it would look okay, maybe it would look like garbage. Look, I just wanted to do something where I wanted to get the work done and have it out there and let them know right from the get-go that this is what they were going to get. And right from the get-go, they all said, oh no, this looks great. We're really happy with this. The first guy I worked with that was really open to the idea of collaborative working was Joshua Dysart on Violent Messiahs. There were some aspects of the book that I kind of, like, I don't know, I tend to be a little more humorous with certain things, so I was throwing in a little comedy in there, just a little bit. And I was doing it all in the drawing, prior, like after he had written the script. So once I was done with the pages, he'd look at it and he'd kind of be like, so like, what are we doing over here? And I'd be like, I just see this guy being a little more humorous. What ended up happening was he didn't fight me on it. Like, he didn't sit there and go, oh, well, that's not what I put on the page. Go change this right now and fix it. He literally was like, all right, well, let's see where this goes. And in the book, we ended up with a character who is probably my favorite character in the whole book, just because Joshua let me be more creative with him. And I think Josh even likes him, because even at one point we kind of just made him like just really silly, dopey, and he was the guy in the comic book that we all wanted to hang out with. I'd rather have the worst day of my life doing this than a great day of, you know, shoveling shit. I'd rather do this. So again, I'll take the bad, because there's so much good that comes out of it. You know, I have a lot of fun. Um, I get to deal with some really good people. Um, would my life be a little bit different if I took a 9 to 5 or found a 9 to 5 that I could still do and had that regular income coming in? It's like, yeah, absolutely. But I think I'd rather do this. He tells me this idea about people and what if we could learn? What if man learns how to fly? I know I had to have told him at least once or twice. It's like, no one's going to buy this. What are you talking about? This is stupid. I can honestly say I've been wrong on 2 occasions. I won't mention the first one, but my second occasion was Skip doing this, because I told him not to do it. He did it, and the first book went out, and people love that book. I just bumped into somebody today who told me they love his book. You know, he went ahead and zipped up one of those flight suits and jumped into that, you know, flying machine. You know what? I've drawn comic books about like Frankenstein monsters and you know, hitmen and stuff. It's like I've never gone out to learn how to like shoot like, you know, a marksman or anything. It's like I just do it. It's all, this is all make believe, you know. But Skip does his make believe in a realistic way. Chris has a kind of, I don't know, just it was just real comfortable. Like he was a solid enough artist to like get the work done, have it look professional. You know, to this is what the book needed to look like. If I had done it, it would have just been a totally different book. Whatever Chris did, whether it was just the fun, the looseness, because I mean, there's a looseness with his work. There's a bounce with his work. There's just something about how he does what it is he does. I've always loved his work from like old like X-Men comic books, and you know, like when I think of like these old school comic books, and again, I'm not saying, you know, old. I mean, it's just these are books that I admired when I was younger. I've always loved his lettering. It's just really awesome. There's something real comfortable about it. It's very easy on the eyes, and when you see his lettering, you know who it is. You're taking me back to being like a 13-year-old kid looking at like those X-Men comic books. It's like there's just something about that lettering that is very comfortable. It's like I'm home. He goes ahead and he just tries to explain to me how he's going to talk to Rick Leonardi, or he wants to talk to Rick Leonardi about doing these pages. And I'm like, that's never going to happen. Just give it up. Don't even try. It's never going to happen, son. And, you know, one week goes in the next week, goes in the next week, and I forget all about it. And then the next time I see Skip, he goes ahead and he tells me, oh, yeah, I got Rick Leonardi to do these pages. What? Goes, oh yeah, I got him on the phone. It took a little while, but you know, I told him what we were looking at or what we were interested in. And he said, yeah, he'd do it. Really? And I'm just thinking to myself, holy cow! It's like, how did he do this? And I'm sure there's a totally reasonable answer there. He was intrigued by the story, or you know, the bottom line worked. Whatever it is, it doesn't matter. Rick Leonardi did some of the pages for him. And I remember seeing those pages, and that story looks awesome. That guy's going to be working on Marvel comic books in the next year. Like, you know, maybe it wasn't the next year. Maybe it was the next 2 years. But I told him straight up, it's like, that guy's going to be huge. Luther Strode, he just did another book just recently. I can't remember the name of it. The dude is talented. I remember when I finally got to meet that dude because he was, back east. He's in Atlanta or in the Atlanta area. I met him at Dragon Con. And the minute he walked up to me and told me who he was, I was like, holy shit. It's like, yeah, dude, you're awesome. Right on. I didn't even, I wasn't hiding it. I told him straight up. It's like, man, your stuff's great. And this was before the Luther Strode stuff. To see him become the comic book guy that he is now is a testament to Skip being able to either listen to me and going, this guy's going to be great, you should definitely hire him, or Skip's ability to actually see talent and knowing that they're going to be able to do that. It's funny just to sit here and imagine Skip telling me some of these stories when he originally pitched me the idea that he wanted to do short stories. And again, I turned to him and was like, what are you doing short stories for? What, are you crazy? And then it was one, and then there was another one, and then there was another one. And I told him, no, don't do any of these. This is ridiculous. And so now it's like I can't even imagine Bizarre New World without him. Because again, it's part of everything else. So yeah, so they're all great. To get to a point where he's put that much time, that much energy, and it's all been paid for out of his pocket. To go ahead and say that about 500 pages, that's an accomplishment. Because there are people who have done 20 pages and, they get horrible, sayings because, they owe this person, or they owe this person, or this person's a crook, he never paid me for this. Man, this book comes out, it's like not one single person is owed anything. They're all been taken care of. And that's a testament to Skip. Like I said, definitely a generous guy. I think I'd probably be just as cautious as Paul was. I'd probably just fly around the room at first and see how that works out, and then maybe go outside. I have a dream I had a dream when I was a kid, and it was here in the house or here at home, where I would jump up in the air, and from my perspective, I could see the entire neighborhood. And then I'd come down and slow, and then I hit the ground, and then shoot right back up really fast. Then you arch on top and slow down, and then you start coming down, then you start speeding up and you hit the ground. You know what I mean? It's like as you're coming closer to the ground, you speed up immensely, and then you shoot back up and you spring up so quickly, but then you get up there and it's nice and slow and everything just, oh, this is really nice. And then down you go again. So maybe I just do that just to see how things go. Because it's almost like one of those deja vus. I almost feel like that could happen. At some point, I'm gonna get to bounce around like that because the dreams were so vivid. One day, Skip's been channeling this the whole time. It's like one day we're gonna get to fly, And so that would probably be it. Just short little bounces back and forth around the neighborhood, just so I don't kill myself.